Well, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I know it's been a up and down this week on trying to make videos on the regular, but that's the way sometimes it goes. I'll get this right out of the way. Thursday, the 25th of September, we are doing a community night. For those that want to join, the group will be linked below. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for the topic of the day, and this is one that I've dealt with throughout my career, throughout the time of making videos. I get this type of thing now and again. It's how do you deal with discouraging comments? How do you deal with the those that want to criticize in such a way and bring you down? Well, recently I had one in my DM. Someone DM'd me about a year and a half ago. This was before I turned around and became what you see before you today. And my thoughts on the time at that time was, I don't know. I didn't know what to answer. I was being shown a door that I just had to walk through. When I walked through that door, it became obviously something more. Something that you could sit there and enjoy quite a bit more. And honestly, once I did walk through that door, it was the new beginnings for me. It really was a new beginning. It's like the ashes formed, I rose above them, and know something more was there. The people I have met in and around this fandom, they don't sit there and they berate you constantly. They sit there and they show care and affection and compassion. And it's such a different place. When I was doing the content before, it was always negative. It was always these things that I sat there. I was like, I don't want to talk about these things. And everyone that was around me was always like, you need to keep going. You need to keep talking about these things because they need to know what is going on there. And these need to be publicly out there. And I was like, but people do that. You look at the news and you sit there with the negative attitude. And then there's at the same time a lot of those groups that I used to speak to. They would sit there and they would degrade what you were doing. They would sit there and tear you down constantly. I'm a Magic the Gathering player. I gotta say, it's one of the most toxic games out there when it comes to the competitive side of things. Same with like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of the competitive nature of that really rises up to the top. And then when you sit there and you fall into where I am now, your eyes are lifted. The blinders come off and you really see something that's much different. I know there's been some talk in the news lately of certain things going on with certain events that I'm not going to talk about. Those that want to, you know what I'm talking about. The whole political side of things. And that has been another thing that I have found. There's people of all walks of life. This is probably one of the most open and freeing things in a fandom or in any sort of gaming community entirely. I come from a world where my gamer tag was me. I've always had a gamer tag. It's always been Cindershadow. It's always been there, and then it turned it into something more. I've always had the affinity of phoenixes and a few other creatures, and it's always something that was there. And once that door was opened and you walk through it, you go, oh, this isn't what it was made out to be. This isn't what people say it was. The rumors, the stereotypes, the casting of what you're doing in and around this fandom, it's a much different attitude and a much different community than what is painted out there in the world. Yeah, there are some fucking nut jobby creeping creatures out there in the world, and I say creatures because sometimes you just don't know where their headspace really is. I know for myself, my headspace, I've questioned every day I was doing anything in and around this fandom. I questioned, I worried that, it's going to bubble up and it's going to negatively impact who I am in life. I speak to people in real life and tell them, listen, I play a bird online. And everyone I have spoken to, they sit there and go, you know what, that's really unique and cool that you do something like that. Most people sit there and look up to that. And then you get into the political scene, and the political scene really paints a different picture. They really paint a picture how it's one of the most degenerate things in the world, and it's not. It really isn't. I'm a tradesperson in real life. You think you've seen degeneracy? Go work in the trades, and you can see some of the things that are out there. You see some very, very bad people. And then you see some great people. There is absolutely amazing people. But that's the 1%. Once again, the painting of the picture is not what it is. You can't judge a book by its cover, and that's what people do. But just because you happen to like a anthropomorphic creature, and people want to sit there and say, oh, it's degenerate to like something like that, and you go, what do you mean? What do you mean? I still go look back at Ori and the Blind Forest. Ori and the Blind Forest is one of these key things that I go back to quite frequently, and I say the reason why the game worked was you removed the human nature out of the game. You created this spirit creature that ran around. You weren't human, and it didn't have the human features normally, and it was an anthropomorphic, well, sort of anthropomorphic. It was a spirit-like creature that ran around that was very cute, and because of that, it became something different. It wasn't like games of the past where you have to have this human, and then you have that going around making up the terms, and then now you got to throw in all the human emotion. No, they just made a good game. They made a good game, and when you remove that one factor out of it, the human aspect out of it, then you can move past a lot of these things in the world and not worry about the political or the judgmental stuff that's out there. I've seen it all. I saw it all before I did any of this, and that's the woes of being a content creator. You will see comments like that, and you will have people trying to tear you down constantly. But it's how you handle that situation, how you move on from that. And I gotta say, one of the things that have helped me in the last little while, it's all of you. All of you, all the positive comments that I have seen on my videos, it really lets me know that I'm doing something right, that I'm doing the things that really does matter in the world, that I've been able to stand here and tell all of you that you're important, that the positivity matters. Yeah, there's shit that happens in the world nowadays, and that's stuff that's going on. It really brings you down. But now, I get into a space like this, all those troubles melt away. I forget about it for a while. It's honestly the ultimate form of escapism. That's what video games started out being. That's why I drove into video games for so very long. They've been a part of my life my entire time. And where they are now is incredible. Now you get to look around and you see scenery like this. You get things like this. You get avatars that are just absolutely beyond recognition to the human mind in some cases. I know when I dove into all of this furry stuff, I had a few people, I had friends stand up and go, "What are you doing?" Before I even looked at it, they were like, "Oh, you got to steer clear of all of this. You got to stay so far away from this, because the second you dive into it, you're going to find something that you're going to like, and it's going to take a hold of you, and you're going to become something more." Well, those fears are gone, and they were right. I became something more. I became more of a positive force on myself, on my world, on everything that I do in a day. So for those that sit there and call this an absolute degenerate, or you call this an absolute horrible place, and you sit there and you make ties to things that are going on in the world because some nut job sits there and goes off their rocker and creates a political scene. I'm sorry. I'm not going to buy it. I can't buy into that anymore. That stuff that I used to see and used to try and talk about, no. All of that stuff can go the hell away. Media, they just want to sit there and put up the next big thing, the next big controversy. Well, you want a big controversy? Then sit there and throw me up on a big screen and say, oh no, Cindershadow became a furry. Anyway, I am your proud Canadian Phoenix, Cindershadow. I'm signing off here. Have yourselves a great day. And don't forget to like and subscribe.